Today, the topic is procrastination. And when I was thinking about teaching on the topic of procrastination, I debated if I should put it off till another time. Case in point. And there's many reasons why we procrastinate. And we all procrastinate at something at some time. Why? And if we know deep within us that we really need to accomplish a certain task, why not just do it? On the other hand, if we know that we should change a certain behavior that's proved to be harmful to us, why don't we just stop doing that? And therein lies the rub. Procrastination is an age-old dilemma. And it's the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other, both pushing us to act or to not act, like in the cartoons. And we usually know what we should be doing that'll benefit our lives, but a lot of times will default back to just a setting in our action center that we won't do anything until we're pushed to do it, until we have to do it. And that's sort of modern man's dilemma there. Now, early man, nomads, pioneers, they really didn't have time to procrastinate. It was survival. And their thought-action process was seamless. They sit, they die. They act, they live. It was really cut clear. They didn't really have the whole view of the future the same. A lot of them. Now that life is easier than ever, no matter how hard your life feels, it's easier now than it has ever been. No matter that, we have the luxury to procrastinate. Now, see, procrastination for us seldom means life or death. Procrastination just delays our ability to accomplish things. That's all it does. The book of action. And the man who basically owned the book of Acts, or as I think of it, the book of action, himself battled with procrastination, just like the rest of us. And about midway through the narrative of Acts, Paul wrote to a group of Roman citizens about his procrastination problem, our procrastination problem. Quote, "I decide to do good, but I don't really do it. I decide not to do bad, but then I do it anyway. My decisions, such as they are, don't result in actions. Something has gone wrong deep within me and gets the better of me every time. It happens so regularly that it's predictable." And that's from Romans 7, from the Message. If you've ever tried to lose weight or get in shape, you know exactly what Paul's talking about here. If you've ever tried to discipline yourself not to visit a certain website or a social media platform or texts or emails or Twitter feeds, yet you find yourself sucked right back in, you know exactly what Paul was talking about. If you know that you really should not take that call from that person that bums you out or pisses you off, or just waste your time, and you continue to take it anyway, then you get what Paul is talking about here. We all do this at times. Procrastination is our time-wasting dream killer. Or better said, time-deferring dream delayer. Now, procrastination shouldn't be confused with laziness. There's a big difference. Laziness is being unwilling to put forth the energy to accomplish a task. Laziness is not willing to act. Procrastination is just putting things off until we get around to it. And when we eventually do it, that's procrastination. But I'm just not going to do it right now. And we usually wait until we're up against a deadline or someone else finally gets our attention in that aspect. And we're all very good at getting certain things done. All of us are very good at getting certain things done. We're masters at it. But let's transfer some of that special mojo, that magnetic quality that helps us get things done to help us overcome this weaker side. The things I don't want to do, I still do. The things I don't want to do, I'm doing. Like Paul said. We want some help getting over our procrastinating side. Now, one of the wisest men who ever lived showed both the procrastination problem and the answer within a couple of verses. King Solomon, knew how to get things done. He changed Israel. He changed the world. He changed the way things were done. No one's ever done what he did before, no king, and no one's ever done it after. Here's what he said in Ecclesiastes 11, and we're going to read verses 3 through 6 from the Message. When the clouds are full of water, it rains. When the wind blows down a tree, it lies where it falls. Don't sit there watching the wind. Do your own work. Don't stare at the clouds. Get on with your life. Just as you'll never understand the mystery of life forming in a pregnant woman, so you'll never understand the mastery at work in all that God does. Go to work in the morning and stick to it until evening without watching the clock. You'll never know from moment to moment how your work will turn out in the end. Just get moving on your goals, your desires, your dreams, and keep moving. Action is the key to all success. Action is a cure to procrastination. Quote, procrastination is the thief of time. Edward Young. Quote, procrastination is opportunity's assassin. Victor Khayyam. Quote, procrastination is the art of keeping up with yesterday. Don Marquis. See, get started and keep moving. Get started and keep moving. If you want change, we're all going to need to change something. You have to change to change. It's so logical, yet we don't do it. Newton's first law of motion that you learned about in junior high describes that an object at rest will remain at rest, and an object in motion will remain in motion, moving at the same direction unless an outside force acts upon it. And we need to discover and lean on an outside positive force that'll help us change our trajectory, our direction. And here's a lesson from space. Yeah. Have you ever seen a video of an astronaut floating in space, tethered to a craft? Have you ever seen them let go of a tool and it just seems to float right along right next to them? Not falling, not moving away. It just sort of sits there. But in actuality, that tool is moving. But it looks like it's just floating. And it looks that way because there's no gravity, no atmosphere, no outside force that causes it to alter its course. If that astronaut or cosmonaut is working on the International Space Station, everything in it and everything that comes out of that station is actually moving at 17,150 miles an hour. That's 5 miles a second. That is 20 times around a high school track in 1 second. That's how fast that thing's moving. Yet, it looks like nothing's moving because there's no outside force to alter the motion of things in space. Until some outside force interferes with an object, it's going to keep moving at that speed in a straight line forever. And Newton's first law of motion is like our habits, good or bad. It's inevitable that we're going to keep doing things the exact same way, good or bad, over and over until we allow something outside of us to move us. What moves you to action? Is it words? Is it art? Is it responsibility? Guilt? Money? Necessity? Friendship? Society? Pending reproof? Rules? Politics? What moves you to action? Quote, do you want to know who you are? Don't ask, act. Action will delineate and define you. Thomas Jefferson. Quote, when it is obvious that the goals cannot be reached, don't adjust the goals, adjust the action steps. Confucius. Quote, action is the foundational key to all success. Pablo Picasso. Quote, take time to deliberate, but when the time for action has arrived, stop thinking and go in. Napoleon Bonaparte. See, Napoleon understood procrastination, and he knew what it took to change the trajectory of the human will. And he knew what it took to help men change their minds and alter the course of their life and the course of history. And during the late 18th century Battle of Toulon, France, there was a battery, a set of heavy guns that were placed in a very exposed position. Very dangerous. And he couldn't get his men to man those guns because it was too dangerous. Now, Napoleon Bonaparte, being a motivational genius, a genius in making things happen, had a sign erected near that perilous position that simply said, "The batterie of fearless men." Probably in French. See, he never lacked for volunteer gunners after that positive and noble sign was erected. Words. Words. What motivates you to action? What is it? With a few simple words, Napoleon got his men thinking highly of themselves. Wouldn't the same work for us? It will. With a few simple words, his men eliminated procrastination and performed valiantly. What's going to get us to alter the direction of our procrastination? What will get us to act? What words? What songs? What images? What? Like Solomon inferred, don't worry about the things that are out of your control. Just keep moving in the direction you want to go. Keep planting the seeds of words and sounds and images that motivate you, and take any and all actions necessary to help yourself grow what you dream of harvesting. Wouldn't it be nice if every action resulted in a positive outcome? I mean, that should be our goal. Why not? If God already set us up for success, then what's holding us back? Well, I'm talking about procrastination. That cuts into every fiber of our being. We're trained. It's accepted. It's allowed. In a moment, we'll get to 4 things that'll help us overcome this dilemma. And quote, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. Mark Twain. Now, what stops us from the life we dream about? All of us have just a short period of time on this terrestrial orb, this terra firma, this planet, in order to accomplish anything. And the hardest part for many of us is just getting started. while for others, it's not just getting started, it's maintaining momentum. And an old Chinese proverb says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Just get started. Get started on something that's going to improve your life. Plant certain seeds. Change something to change something. The greatest disservice that has ever been trained into mankind is procrastination. Procrastination is integrated into our society and is fully accepted. We know people are going to do it. We know we're going to do it. But on the converse, the greatest successes and the greatest success stories that have ever been written are always about people who found a way to get started and to stay started. Every successful person knows how to do that, at least in that area of their life. And I asked a few people this week, what's the most common reasons they procrastinate? And here's what was said. I don't have the time. I'm not motivated. I'm not feeling it. Fear of failure. Fear of success. I don't like being pushed. I don't really see the big picture. I feel overwhelmed. I'm tired. I want all the pieces in place before I get started. I'm easily distracted. And finally, Facebook. Quote, procrastination is one of the most common and deadliest of diseases, and its toll on success and happiness is heavy. Wayne Gretzky. Anybody at the top of their profession understands this. Just busting past procrastination. If you can do that, you will find your success. You will reach your goals, and you will get what God wants you to have. But we trained ourselves to think that procrastination is good, is okay. It's normal. But it's not really what we should have. Now, Paul talked about it. So did Solomon. So beating procrastination. What are some simple ways to help us circumvent procrastination or the sinkhole of procrastination and to get on to finally reaching our goals? Well, yesterday I was doing an 11-mile training run. And I was on a lovely Colorado trail, and it was a beautiful day, partial blue skies, soft wind, and occasional wisps of rain sprinkled upon me. The animals were out in force. I saw deer wading through the stream that I was running next to, totally ignoring me. Rabbits were feverishly trying to evade me. I saw magpies with their feathers all puffed out, hopping around next to the trail, trying to scare me off from their nest. And I saw a red-tailed hawk in slow flight getting bombarded by smaller birds, but it just kept flying, just kept moving. And I had a wonderful run. But about 2 miles into the run, right after I saw Mike, I heard what sounded like a female scream. And I thought it might be kids playing in the creek ahead. So I came upon this blind corner, turned to the right, and I heard the unmistakable sound of a woman's terrified scream. So I picked up the pace and I rounded the bend to see if I could be of assistance, and I saw a young blonde lady wearing a biking helmet, sitting on her red mountain bike, just screaming. And I looked down and saw why. And there was this huge 7-foot-long snake sunning itself on the trail. And it had this diamond pattern across its back. And it wasn't moving a muscle. It just was enjoying, just soaking up the warmth. Didn't seem to be, it was nonplussed by all of us. And I kept running toward her, and I just leaped over the snake And she said, "What?" And she stopped screaming. And I told her, that snake's not poisonous. It's a bull snake. I said, just right around its tail, and it could care less. Because I've done it hundreds and hundreds of times on that trail. And so she went, "Oh." And then she hopped off her bike, leaned it up against a tree, took out her iPhone and started taking pictures of it. And I laughed because it was such a funny sight. And see, she was unable to get herself to ride past that snake. So she just screamed. Until she learned that it was harmless. You know, what gets you to move past your blockades? What gets you to move past what you keep procrastinating? You know, when you figure that out, and when you figure out how to get your body in motion when it's been inert, you are on your way to success. You will be unstoppable at that point if you can just keep moving. Now, here's a few chronic procrastinators. These are people that put off things until they had to act or until they got acted upon. Because sometimes if you don't act, somebody else is going to act. It's said that the American author Herman Melville asked his wife to literally chain him to his desk while he was struggling to finish his epic 1851 novel, Moby Dick, or The Whale. And that must have done the job for him, because the book is now known as one of the greatest works of fiction ever written. In fact, a movie's coming out about it in the next year. The great American architect, Frank Lloyd Wright, was a chronic procrastinator. But his most famous house design was started and finished in just 2 hours. Unbelievable. And his client had been asking him over the months how his house plans were coming along, and he kept lying and saying, "Just fine, just fine." And then on September 22nd, 1935, Mr. Kaufman, his client, called him and said he would be over at noon to check him out. Wright calmly got up from breakfast. To his apprentice's horror, he sat down and he drew the plans in the time it took Kaufman to drive from Philadelphia to his location. In 1996, this same house was listed as a national landmark. It's not that procrastinators don't get things done. Just a lot of times they wait till the deadline's there. They have to do it. And I'm just saying that we only have a limited amount of time. We just have a limited time on this earth. You know, let's get busy now. Why wait? You might wait so long we run out of time, or it starts acting on us, like the next one. Have you ever heard about General Washington's crossing of the Delaware River that cold Christmas night in 1776? You know, we've all seen the pictures, right? And he was attempting a surprise attack on the enemy. And and according to one account, the enemy, Colonel Rahl, was busy playing cards that night. And he was handed a note from a person loyal to England, warning him that Washington's forces were approaching. Rahl wanted to finish his card game. So he put the letter in his coat pocket without ever reading it. After a brief and surprising battle, Rahl's Haitian troops were captured, and he died of a musket ball while retreating. And the warning letter was found in his coat pocket unopened. He procrastinated. Men lost their lives. Tenzin Gyatso better known as Dalai Lama, said he was a bored student and found it hard to get motivated. And, quote, "Only in the face of a difficult challenge or an urgent deadline would I study and work without laziness," he reminisced. Now he teaches, "You must not procrastinate. Rather, you should make preparations so that even if you die tonight, you would have no regrets." Pretty wise. Marcus Aurelius, not a chronic procrastinator. In fact, just the opposite. He said, quote, "Think of all the years passed by in which you said to yourself, 'I'll do it tomorrow,' and how the gods have again and again granted you periods of grace of which you have not availed yourself. It is time to realize that you are a member of the universe. You are born of nature itself, and to know that a limit has been set to your time." End of quote. Joseph Ferrari, a psychology professor at DePaul University, is a leading expert in the study of procrastination. And he said, quote, "Telling a chronic procrastinator to just do it is like telling a clinically depressed person to cheer up." And he offered 4 tips to cure chronic procrastination. 1, narrow your focus, and I will explain all these. 2, reward yourself for meeting your goals. 3, hold yourself publicly accountable. And 4, don't lose momentum. So narrow your focus, reward yourself for meeting your goals, hold yourself publicly accountable, and don't lose momentum. Allow me to summarize. 1, narrowing our focus is focusing on one simple task rather than the overall goal. It alleviates the forest of the trees conundrum. Just focus on one tiny task at a time. Like if your goal is better health, then maybe start adding one extra portion of vegetables a day or a week. Don't attempt a total dietary makeover at the very start. You're going to work into that. If your goal is to get back in shape, then start off with 1 push-up a day. And then maybe the next day add another, then another, then another. Walk 1 lap around the block if that's all you can do. Then a little further, and a little further, and a little further. Do 1 simple yoga session in your living room from some DVD you bought or website on your smart TV, and then start doing it. Or start taking some simple beginner class. Do something simple and easy towards your goal. Do something. Don't worry about losing 40 pounds. Work on 1. Do 1 tiny little behavioral change at a time. It adds up. If your goal is to make more money or to increase your retirement objectives, what's 1 little thing you could do? Could you increase your percentage that you put into your retirement fund by 1% each year? Think that would add up over time? Oh yeah. What about maybe just getting started saving, like $5 a week? Don't drink Starbucks. Then you save $5 a day. That'd be $25 a week. That's $100 a month. Imagine putting $100 a month. It's really that simple. Just 1 tiny behavioral change. If you want to write a book, start with 1 sentence. Some people they dream of writing a book, but they never get started. Someday, 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 someday. We're going to write our memoirs, our family memoirs. I just heard that last week. So if you write 1 page a day, in 1 year, you'll have a book. I write about 6,000 words a week, and so do some of you. the ones who transcribe what I'm saying. If you want to just start reading books again, we all get to a place where we're so busy we don't have time to read. Maybe just read one page. And you'll find in a few days you'll read a chapter. And then you're going to want to start reading books like crazy again. You'll get the reading bug again. You see? So to begin defeating your procrastination problem, start by narrowing your focus. Narrowing your focus. Start small. I'm not telling you to start on the hardest project, like everybody has taught all these years. I'm saying start on the easiest. Because the way we've been doing it isn't working, obviously. Number 2, reward yourself for meeting your goals. We all understand this. Everybody likes to be rewarded for something. Imagine if you got rewarded when you sent in your bill early, but they'll still charge you if you send it in late, right? They should reward you if you get it in a week early. Give you 10% on top. I mean, but that's not how our world's set up. Our world's designed to castigate procrastinators, not to reward. So you reward yourself. Connect activities you dislike with the ones you love, and it'll make it easier. It's incentives to help you stay on task. Reward yourself with a snack, with a movie. Okay, if I do this, if I'm good this week, if I don't drink or I start drinking a gallon of water a day, I'm going to go to the movie or I'm going to go out to eat. Whatever. Reward yourself for something. Or I'm going to do a workout. I'm going to schedule it because a lot of us like to work out. To me, it's a reward when I get time to do that. Dr. Ferrari says, quote, something you like to do becomes a reinforcer for something you don't like to do. So that'll also help. That'll also help you. Reward yourself is another key to eradicating procrastination. Somehow to keep yourself motivated. Number 3, hold yourself publicly accountable. I don't like this one. I don't like this. Because it's easy if you don't tell anybody you're procrastinating, then nobody knows and we can just keep living that stupid, lifestyle. See, when we feel like others are watching us, it tends to limit our excuses. Like when I do a job in somebody's house, I think somebody's watching me every second I'm in there. And I make myself think this so I don't bump a wall or hurt something in there. Or when I'm working with clients in another business I do. You just never want, you just want to feel like everything's above board. True transparency, not political transparency we keep hearing about. You see, ask your spouse or your friend or your workmate or your workout buddy to keep you on task. Post your objectives on Twitter or Facebook, and that helps many people. Not me, because I'm not into that, but so many people are. And we're working into a generation that's all they know. So we should understand it to some degree. Even writing our goals on a very public whiteboard near our desk, even our desk at home, they may help. Maybe hire a mentor or hire a coach. I know a guy in my networking group. He has a successful auto repair business, and he pays a mentor, and he has for 15 years, to hold his feet to the fire and make him accomplish his tasks. He pays this guy an ungodly amount of money, but it makes him a lot of money. The guy will say, did you do this week? Yes. Did you do this? No. Then what are you doing? Why are you paying me? What's the point? And the guy just pushes him to get done what he really wants to do. Sometimes we need somebody like that. A fitness coach. If you've ever worked out with somebody, or a weightlifter or what have you, or a track runner or what have you, you'll realize that it's very helpful to have somebody pushing you. Because most of the time we can do more than we think we can do. Correct? So that's hold yourself publicly accountable. See, many times knowing that others know what we want to accomplish will help us eliminate our procrastination. There's no excuses. No good ones when it's public. Quote, every vice has its excuse ready. Publius Syrus. Every vice has its excuse ready. Number 4, don't lose momentum. And as Newton's first law of motion states, an object in motion tends to stay in motion. And it's much easier to finish a project once we get started. Just get started. There's a couple of tactics that may help. And take the easiest and simplest task on your list and make yourself get started. And a simple way is like if you're working on something on the computer, only open that screen. Don't have your email open. Don't have your Facebook account open. Just have the thing that you're working on open. Nothing else. It works. Business people all around the world know this, and they won't allow themselves to be distracted. I read about one writer. He uses the old DOS format and the black screen with the little yellow orange letters, and he's a top author, one of the best in the world and most prosperous, and he's written every book because he can't do anything but write on there. It's a useless machine. It's like a typewriter. That's all it is, just a word processor for him. But then it doesn't afford him the opportunity to be distracted. Let me see. Anything that doesn't push you towards your goal should eliminate. Whatever it is. Now, it's easy to say, hard to do. But we're talking about procrastination. What's keeping us from reaching our goals? Procrastination is usually one of the biggest things. For Paul to write that, to the Romans, right in the middle of the book of Acts, has to be huge and common. During your most productive times of the day, close your email, shut off Facebook, put your phone away, turn it off, and just get busy if you're a desk person. You guys who do construction, there's a certain time of day you work the best. Maybe the afternoon, maybe the morning. Make that your most productive time. See, there's plenty of time to waste time. Don't waste time when you should be making money. Don't waste time when you're working on your goals. Maybe choose the time you want to waste time. Sometimes you need the downtime. That's okay too. Now here's something called the 2-minute rule. And this is an easy way to get started on the path to eliminating procrastination. And I love this idea. And I started doing this a couple of years ago around the house, and it helped my marriage. And if you think about it, most of the tasks that we procrastinate about usually aren't very difficult. We easily have the ability to accomplish them. We just need to get started. Like, instead of looking at the trash in there, take it out. 2 minutes. You could do it twice. And what about washing that dish? Instead of leaving it in the sink for someone else to do. You could wash a dish in less than 2 minutes, couldn't you? What about like dropping the lid on the toilet or the seat? That could be done in less than 2 minutes. What about throwing your clothes in the hamper instead of just dropping them in the corner? That could be done in less than 2 minutes. What about deleting emails? How many could you really delete in 2 minutes? A lot. If you can do it in 2 minutes or less, do it. Don't wait anymore. Just do it. Don't wait for someone to tell you. Just do it. Get started, gain momentum, and eradicate procrastination. It's a 2-minute rule. And so finally, the sage conclusion toward the cure for procrastination by King Solomon the teacher, is in Ecclesiastes 12. And I'm going to read verse 1 and then verse 12 and 13 from the Voice. Make it sound bigger than it is, but it's a great section. It's a great section because we heard what he read, he talked about earlier. And now in the next chapter, he's the teacher. And so we come to the end of this musing over life. My advice to you is to remember your Creator, God, while you are young. Before life gets hard and the injustice of old age comes upon you, before the years arrive when pleasure feels far out of reach. So be warned, my child, of anything else that might be said. There's no end to writing books, and excessive study only exhausts the body. And when all is said and done, here is the last word. Worship and reverence the one true God and keep his commandments, for this is what God expects of every person. Procrastination is conquered by uninterrupted and positive action. God bless.